Welcome to the Conversion Code Live Masterclass. My name's Jane Baylor, and it's great to see you here. This masterclass is for ambitious achievers who are selling their own or other people's products or services in a face to face way. In other words, your sale won't be closed in a purely online or e commerce environment, which requires a different set of skills and is a different business model that we'll be addressing elsewhere. So let's talk about who this is for. You may be an expert consultant, business coach, B2B business owner, or service provider who sells your services one to one. You may, on the other hand, be a business development professional who is selling services on behalf of the organization you work for. Or you may be an ambitious founder who is looking to build momentum, impact, and buy in from key clients or stakeholders. And you'll be having meetings with your prospects either virtually or in person. And during these meetings, your goal will be to close a high value sale of your product or service. And the value of these sales will typically be between 2 and 10K, for example, if you're a solopreneur who's selling your own services. If you're a business development or sales professional who's selling on behalf of your team or organization, the sale might run into six figures. Of course, we always have to take into consideration lifetime customer value. So, in many instances, and especially with service providers, that first sale might be a relatively modest one. But as long as you do a good job and solve the problem they have, thanks to what's called the commitment and consistency principle, the chances are high that they will come back to you for more further down the line, or at the very least, recommend you to others who have that same problem too. Now, before we get further into this presentation, I just wanted to say that I may not have enough time to answer your questions live today because we're only here for 30 minutes. So if you do want to ask me something, feel free to reach out and direct message me afterwards on whatever platform you're watching this on, or email me at jane@janebaylor.com and I'll get right back to you. So, the techniques and skill sets you're going to hear about today will also work in a more general sense to influence all your personal and professional relationships. So, if you're not looking to make direct sales, you may be looking for investors to fund your business or your property deals, or find new high value business partners, or have business owners want to sell to you and only you. Influence and persuasion is very important when you're selling seven figure deals, as I was when I ran my brand identity business and worked in business development for global ad agencies and media companies. In this instance, you'll have to distribute these skills across multiple meetings and relationships, as selling large deals like that is never a one time only event. So, the larger the deal, the longer the sales cycle, and you'll also be dealing on the whole with more than one decision maker. Now, you may be selling B2C, and what this means that is that instead of selling to businesses or the individuals within them, you'll be selling to the public at large. And here, exactly the same principles apply. People are people. People have jobs and they run businesses, or maybe they're not even working right now, but they have a need that you can match with your solution, or some funds that they're looking to spend or invest. Influence and persuasion helps you across every scenario, as long as it involves an interpersonal exchange where you want to get buy in for your thoughts and ideas. The principles of influence and persuasion will help you get whatever you want in life. They're so powerful that you can use them to acquire friendships, get people to fall in love with you, get your children to do what you want them to do without arguing, and get favorable terms in almost every transaction. Because when you use them, the outcome is inevitable. People will like you more, respect you more, and accept you more readily. They'll forget about the ways they met you, and even if you approach them, they'll often think it was their idea to build the relationship with you. They'll often think you're polite and charming, and they'll want you to belong to their tribe. They'll feel good about you when you come into their thoughts. They'll have that warm, fuzzy glow of trust and anticipation. You know, that feeling you get when you're looking forward to spending time with someone special. And that special person is, of course, you. So, when you're doing things right, you'll be putting in consistent effort to build your brand and online presence and generate a pipeline of high caliber, filtered, and qualified prospects. And these will eventually reach the tipping point where they decide whether to choose you over others and commit to a purchase. Now, by the way, if you don't have enough of the right type of prospects coming into your pipeline, reach out to me and we'll jump on a call. This is actually quite a simple problem to fix, although some people don't know how. What's far more challenging is building an offer that people want to buy if you're selling coaching or consulting services, or landing the juiciest deals if you're in professional services, where competition for the highest value deals is intense. All of these issues are things I help my clients resolve. So remember, I'm here for you and will definitely be able to give you some value in this respect and guide you to do things in a better, smarter way. Now, whether you're engaging with an individual, as is common in B2C or business to consumer sales, or multiple decision makers, as is typical for those higher value B2B, business to business transactions, their decision to buy will be linked to your ability to influence and persuade them that your product is worthy of their investment of time and money. When you get this right, your investment of time and effort will generate the profit and growth you've been looking for. Fail to engage with the right drivers, and you will fall at the last hurdle when wondering where it all went wrong. Enter the conversion code, your toolkit for sales success. The conversion code addresses the language models and psychology of effective sales, drawing on the timeless proven techniques of subliminal suggestion and hypnotic language patterns so that you can sell more, charge more, and have more fun. So let's get into it. I want you to imagine you're in a scenario where all your hard work has paid off. You're face to face with your prospect, either virtually or in a physical meeting. Both of you know the purpose of this. You're going to close the deal or not. You're going to come away with the business or leave empty handed. And you're starting at the opposite end of the spectrum because they have the power and you have the need. And what we must do is shift that energy so that it's the other way around. And they realize they can't ignore or appreciate the value of your solution, no matter what the cost or how expensive it is compared to your competition. And that's exactly what the conversion code will help you do. So, the first rule of the conversion code is preparation. You need to understand certain things about your prospect rather than going in blind. Knowledge is power always. Research their career and their personal and professional background. People who have spent their working lives building a certain skill set and wisdom will also have developed a certain way of looking at the world, and this will impact how they filter the information you present to them. For example, what people might want to know about me is that I spent many years developing business for some of the leading marketing agencies in the world. And that was when I was not selling those deals myself. I was right there alongside some legendary creative directors who were famous the world over for their skills of influence and persuasion. And as a result, it's easy for me to spot all those tactics and recognize overt and clumsy manipulation. But actually, I'm not that hard to sell to. Because I've done this for so long, I instinctively rely on subtle cues that tell me whether someone is aligned with me. I look very heavily to my intuition and far less to data and social proof, because I'm always willing to take a chance on someone if I sense they have integrity and I trust them. Having been in sales all my life, I'm extremely relaxed and quite forgiving as a buyer. If, on the other hand, you're like my client Gianpaolo, who spent his career in investment banking and is now an IFA as well as a property developer and business buyer, Well, all of the fields he operates in are about numbers. He's a lovely guy, but I would never expect him to ignore the maths. He will always look first to factual evidence, data, and statistics. If he's going to make an investment, of course, the first thing he will want to know is what the likelihood is of him getting a return on his money. So Gianpaolo will dismiss an instinctive connection with a seller as purely personal information, and although this will matter to him, he won't make a decision based on this alone. And that's why the one size fits all approach has no relevance to sales psychology. To achieve high value conversions, you'll also want to prepare yourself psychologically because, like peak performance sports, selling with power requires a commitment to win. And that's not winning at the expense of another, which is actually win lose. It's a commitment to a win win for all, which it will be when your prospect understands the value of your service and commits exclusively to you. When you do this well, your prospect will make the transition from skepticism to trust and excitement that finally their goals are achievable. Becoming a market leader, communicating with impact and authority, acquiring more premium clients, and attracting the fees you deserve is never easy. If it were, everyone would be running highly successful service based businesses rather than spamming unqualified prospects, outreaching on social media, or discounting their prices just to get a sale. If the process seems hard, remember the world's highest paid all star athletes commit to peak performance, and they hire the highest caliber coaches to maintain their elite status. And business all stars must prepare the same way. Now, another thing you should consider, apart from someone's professional or personal background, is their psychological profile. And there are a number of profiling tools out there, and it helps to familiarize yourself with at least one of them. So, one we're going to look at here is DISC. And DISC profiling is a behavioral assessment tool used to understand and categorize an individual's personality traits and communication style. The term DISC is an acronym representing four primary personality traits as follows. The first trait is dominance, and people with a dominant personality tend to be assertive, competitive, and results oriented. They are decisive and they enjoy taking charge of situations. And this will be the typical profile for a leader of a business or a successful entrepreneur. High Ds want clear and concise information and hate waffle. They like to make decisions fast and they're impatient, so you have to tailor your pitch to suit. Keep it high level and leave out irrelevant detail. The second trait is influence, I. Individuals with an influence based personality are sociable, persuasive, and outgoing. They're good at building relationships, inspiring and motivating others. And this is the typical profile of a salesperson or a creative. They'll enjoy engaging with you and be interested in who you are as a person rather than just the opportunity you offer. They'll be looking for evidence as to whether they can resonate and find shared points of experience, and they're excited by fresh ideas and possibilities. So, appealing to their imagination and building a vision is going to be really important here. The third trait is steadiness, and people with a steady personality tend to be cooperative, patient, and supportive. They value stability and are dependable, and reliable. And they usually make good managers. So you'll find more of them in employment and specifically in mid level corporate roles, for example. They're not limelight seekers and they tend to be team players. And like the conscientious types, they'll want to consider things carefully and take their time to make a decision. They don't like to feel pressurized or rushed into anything. So you'll need to find out what information they need from you and whether anybody else needs that information too, as they will always want to embrace and carefully consider the opinion of others. The fourth trait is conscientiousness, and that's the C. And individuals with a conscientious personality are detail oriented and organized. They'll want to thoroughly consider all aspects of any task, project, or situation before they commit to it. They're dependable, reliable, and driven by the pursuit of excellence in everything they do. And they're committed to staying on track and achieving their goals once something is started. But they're often also risk averse and overly cautious, preferring to thoroughly assess potential risks and benefits before making any decision. They're really analytical, so they'll seek to understand all the relevant factors. Now, it's common for people to have a primary and a secondary disc profile. So, for example, I am an I as well as a C. Now, sometimes you will not have enough access to someone to fully evaluate their profile. And of course, you probably won't be in receipt of the assessment tool that they've done, but you will usually be able to pick up on the most dominant trait once you recognize it. Now, you're here because you want to learn about subliminal and hypnotic language patterns, and in this respect, I have some great tips for you. This is, however, a huge topic, and it's impossible to share all of this in just 30 minutes. But I should let you know that the conversion code forms a third pillar of the Triple C hypergrowth method, which my ideal client success program is based around. The other two mechanisms in my program are the messaging waterfall method, which helps you develop a unique messaging and language system to powerfully communicate the value of your service and package it up for success, and the chosen first system, which is our end to end funnel based system to help you distribute your message to market, filter, qualify, and get your ideal clients lining up to do business with you. So, if that sounds even remotely interesting, I invite you to reach out to me on whichever social platform you're watching this on, or email me at jane@janebaylor.com. And myself or a member of my team will jump on a call and explain exactly how this whole thing works. Okay, so now let's get into the good stuff. Not that what you've heard so far hasn't been good, but you're here to learn some closely guarded secrets of hypnotic language that you can use on your prospects to build commitment and desire and close them on a sales meeting or call. So, we're going to go one layer deeper now to start to mirror and match the learning styles of your prospects. Now, you may already have heard about mirroring and matching and how it works when you're face to face. And what this means is that if someone speaks to you in a fast, loud tone of voice, you will match their volume, rhythm, and pace. And likewise, if they take lots of pauses and they speak in a slow, measured tone, you will respond in the same way. If you're in a face to face instead of a virtual meeting, you will look at body language and match that too. If they stand close to you, you won't step away. If they step away, you will maintain your distance. If they cross their arms, you'll do so too, not in a cringy and too obvious way, of course. And this builds physical rapport, and we must always remember that non-verbal cues can form at least 80% of the information we absorb. So, this is why this is important. And we also need to establish the learning style of our prospect. Now, of course, and as with the disc profiling, all these traits are purely signposts to help you communicate more precisely and effectively to your prospect. So people will generally have a dominant learning style, and mine happens to be auditory, as I prefer to learn through language, but I also respond to charts and diagrams, and I can be a multitasking kinesthetic too. So all of us have a bit of everything in us. It's not black and white. And that's why we should cater for all the learning styles while paying attention to cues that tell us what someone's primary one is. With all these learning styles, you should try to talk in sensory rich language. And here's how. For visual learners, you should paint pictures with words. Describe scenes, colors, and images that help them visualize your message. Use words like picture this and can you see what I mean? Visual learners will use words like I see or show me. They'll use visual cues such as diagrams and doodles, and you'll often see them using their hands and making gestures to illustrate a point. They'll be stylish dressers for the most part, and they'll pay close attention to how they look. And they may also notice and compliment you on your appearance or clothing. And their environments will be neat, carefully designed, and pleasing to the eye. They may talk about movies or TV programs they've watched or YouTube channels they like. And they'll enjoy learning with the assistance of charts, diagrams, and videos. And they'll often prefer this to reading. And the way to engage them is through pictures. And as long as they have interesting and attractive things to look at, you'll be able to keep their attention. For auditory learners, you should incorporate words and phrases that resonate with sound. For example, alliteration. Use phrases like, listen to these facts, or does that sound good to you? Auditory learners respond strongly to language and how things are expressed, and the impact of words will be super powerful for them. They'll respond very strongly to the sound of your voice, and they may excel at languages. They'll feel a deep affinity for music and they'll have a keen ear for accents. They may talk about podcasts or radio shows they've listened to or books they've consumed on Audible. Conversation and verbal communication will be really important to them, and they'll strive to communicate in a clear and precise way, and how you say what you say will have a huge impact on them. They'll recognize and be upset by lazy or poor verbal communication, and you'll have to bring out your A game in terms of how you talk. And how to engage an auditory learner is simple. Communicate really, really well. Put a lot of effort into talking in a clear and compelling way, and you'll have them hooked. Now, for kinesthetic learners, you should describe physical sensations and experiences and use phrases like get a feel for, hands on, or grasp the concept. And kinesthetic learners process information through physical sensations and experiences. They may use language like, I feel that, or this doesn't sit right with me. Look for body language cues such as touching, gesturing, or using expressions that indicate their physical senses are engaged. They often excel at physical tasks that require coordination and motor skills, such as sports or dance. And they tend to be restless multitaskers because they're very active and action orientated. And when they're required to passively sit still, watch and listen and absorb information, they'll quickly lose focus or attention. And they always prefer to learn by doing rather than by passively listening or reading. So, what they're really looking for is an opportunity to roll up their sleeves and get going with a project rather than considering the pros and cons at length. Many neurodiverse people are kinesthetic learners. So, look for signs such as not listening, interrupting, a short attention span, wandering eyes, and impatience. The way to hold a kinesthetic person's attention remotely is through asking frequent questions, responding to their feedback, taking breaks if the meeting is long, and giving them the chance to participate as fully as they can and in a truly interactive way with your discussion. And of course, if you're in person, give them a chance to touch, feel, hold, and experience things in a physical sense. Metaphors and analogies are great tools for creating sensory rich language, comparing unfamiliar concepts to something familiar to help your audience frame and understand new concepts. For example, think of this like the missing pieces of a puzzle. You can also use stories which are really powerful and always try to be descriptive and specific while avoiding vague or abstract language or jargon. Okay, so now we're going to get into an NLP technique that is very effective in terms of helping conversions. And there are many more, but let me just introduce you to this one, as otherwise we'll run out of time today. So, the one that we're going to look at is future pacing. And future pacing involves guiding your prospect through a mental journey to experience their desired future outcomes and experiences as if they were already real. Now, obviously, timing is important here. You won't do this in the early part of the sales conversation. You will have to have built rapport and introduced your product. And this is a very effective technique to ramp up commitment and desire. So you will already have identified your clients' goals and pain points. In other words, you will know exactly what they want to achieve, why it matters so much to them, and what's standing in the way of them getting there. So you will start the future paced exercise by summarizing their current situation, pain points, and the challenges that they're facing. And you will then go into the details of your offer, linking each detail back to those pain points, challenges, and the goals that they've given you. So, for example, I might say, so you've been taking advice from a lot of people and you've done some things that haven't worked for you. And you're worried that if you work with us, you're just going to go down another rabbit hole like Alice in Wonderland and be faced with another array of doors without knowing which one to enter. Is that right? And you can see here that I'm using the metaphor of Alice falling down the rabbit hole to strengthen the point that I'm making and build a powerful sensory image. Now you will guide the client through a detailed future pacing scenario describing how their life or situation might look after investing in your solution. So I might say, well, what do you think would happen if all that anxiety was removed and instead of you having to make decisions about which direction to take and where to invest your energy, time, and resources, you just had a very simple and proven roadmap to follow that has got amazing results for people just like you? Do you think that could be something that could work for you? And they'll say, yes, it could, because I've accurately summarized a specific pain point they've told me about and given them some hope that they don't have to suffer in this way anymore. And then I might say, and would this be helpful if it also freed up a ton of your time because you've stopped spinning your wheels on ineffective and outdated tactics that are wrong for your season of business? Is that something that you would like too? And of course, they will normally say yes to that too. And you will see that I'm increasing commitment and I'm starting to build the belief that a solution truly is the here for them. Now, I will continue to use descriptive language to create a vivid and emotionally charged image of their desired future state. And I will describe specific improvements they will experience both internally, for example, increased confidence and self esteem, and externally in terms of success, money, and growth. So I might say something like, and you told me that you want to have more time to spend with your family and more money to enjoy that time so that you can do some of those special things like take that dream vacation that you've been talking about for years, right? And they'll say yes. And then I might say, so what would that vacation actually look like? Where would you go? And what will you do when you're there? And then they move into a daydream state where they're releasing those cherished thoughts and ideas that they've been keeping under wraps because they've had setbacks and secretly doubted they could ever get there. So I will really encourage them and help them step into their dream, and I will link it back to my solutions. So I will say things like, so if you had a system in place that meant you only had to work 4 hours a day to make 4 times the income you're making right now, do you think your dream vacation could become a reality? And they'll say yes. And then I'll say, and what if the system, not you, did so much of the heavy lifting on your behalf that you could actually release yourself fully from the day to day operations of your business and work as much or as little as you like? Do you think that's something that would work for you too? Now, of course, they're going to say yes to this as well. And then I will enrich that vision by saying, so you mentioned this vacation that you're going to take. Imagine yourself on that boat sailing around the Med and the warm breeze ruffling your hair and seeing dolphins leap out of the sea and hearing the lapping of the waves and the excited shouts and laughter of your children as they spot those dolphins. And you can be completely in the moment and living life to the full with no worries, concerns, or thoughts as to what is happening elsewhere. How would you feel at that point? and they'll be in a trance of enjoyment as if they're really there. And now you can see they're really starting to take this possibility seriously because, at a deep emotional level, their brains are connecting with the true power of your solution. And this isn't manipulation marketing, as many people call NLP based sales techniques. We always have to remember that as long as we are ethical and truthful in terms of any claims we make, we are simply empowering people to back themselves, strengthen their commitment towards their goals, and believe in their dreams, which most of us need help with, as left to our own devices, we humans tend to lapse into fear based inaction, which actually sabotages our success. As the famous entrepreneur and sales trainer Grant Cardone says, success is our duty, right, and responsibility. We need to act in accordance with this and bring the appropriate strength and power to all our sales conversations, as it serves us as well as the clients we're talking to. Your final step of this future pacing exercise will see you bridge back to the present, emphasizing that the path to their desired future begins with their decision to invest in your program or services. There are so many more techniques included in the conversion code program to help you sell more at higher prices and attract exactly the right people while repelling tire kickers, time wasters, and those who don't value your worth before they take up any of your precious time. Now, remember the other two pillars of my Ideal Client Success program, which the Triple C Hypergrowth method revolves around, include the messaging waterfall, which helps you create a powerful and bespoke messaging and language system for your service based offer, and the chosen first system, which is the freedom based flywheel that sits in front of your conversion code and gives you a framework to attract your ideal clients in advance of those all important in person conversations. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow or subscribe to me on the channel you found this on for more in this free valuable masterclass series, and remember to reach out to me if you'd like a call as well. I wish you a wonderful week ahead.